The 28 Days Later franchise officially has a trilogy to its name. For the longest time, I thought we'd never see a continuation of these films, but I can happily say now we have it, with the third movie finally getting released, titled 28 Years Later. Why did they skip 28 months? Nonetheless, regardless of my excitement, is 28 Years Later good? How does it compare to entries 1 and 2? Well, today, I'll answer those questions for you through a ranking, as I rank all 3 28 Days Later movies. Please note, if you haven't seen 28 Days or Weeks, I will be diving into spoilers for both films. However, you are in luck if you haven't seen 28 Years Later yet, as I won't get into spoilers since it just came out. Alright, without further ado, let's get started at number 3. And last is in fact 28 Years Later. After waiting so long, I desperately hoped this would be great. I wanted 28 Years to be the best this franchise has ever delivered. Unfortunately, I left the theater underwhelmed. Easily the peak of this movie is when Aaron Taylor Johnson and the kid who plays his son, Spike, Alfie Williams, are together on screen. They both give tremendous performances, and the scenes they share leave you on the edge of your seat. This is exactly what I wanted from 28 Years Later. I also found the cinematography breathtaking. Danny Boyle showcases the potential this franchise has from a look standpoint, and I couldn't have been more impressed. As for everything else, I can't say I enjoyed myself. For some reason, Boyle's style turns comedic at times. It doesn't always maintain a gritty or serious tone, and I hated that about 28 Years Later. It almost feels like a parody. Furthermore, the story told here is a slow-paced, contained father-mother-son tale. Not one that advances things forward from 28 Weeks Later. If that's what they wanted to do, why not just make a spin-off instead? Or a miniseries? I think a scale of this size is more appropriate for home screens as opposed to the big screen. Like they couldn't be bothered tying up loose ends from the previous entries? Clearly, their true intent was to make more sequels afterwards, rather than having a climactic finale to end the franchise, which is a total bummer. Lastly, they left out the iconic track In the House in a Heartbeat that we hear in the first two. But why? Boyle did literally everything he could to create a flick nothing like Days or Weeks. I could point out the jarring editing too, among other problems I had, but I'll save my breath. So yeah, I'm disappointed. I don't have much interest in exploring this story further when the sequel comes out January 2026. I'll leave it at that. Second is 28 Weeks Later. The most notable difference between 28 Days and Years versus 28 Weeks is how Weeks looks like a big budget movie. Not only is this more of a blockbuster compared to the others, but you have a pretty great cast here as well. There's Jeremy Renner, Rose Byrne, and Idris Elba. Unlike in 28 Days Later, where Cillian Murphy and Naomi Harris were unknown at the time. 28 Weeks Later upped the ante for better or worse, depending on what you prefer. But yes, this film certainly has a larger scale. You got mass panic as people run for their lives from the infected. There's an entire military operation in 28 Weeks Later, plus citywide bombings. I think it was the right move for a sequel. You gotta go bigger and better. And yes, I do love the cast. Jeremy Renner is great, and Robert Carlyle is fantastic. His acting ability has been overlooked for years. 28 Weeks Later is also very suspenseful. Now, after my first watch a couple years ago, I wasn't a fan of 28 Weeks Later at all, but on rewatch, I actually did like it. There's a plethora of tension-filled scenes, such as when the civilians are locked in a room with an infected Robert Carlyle. I love when Jeremy Renner spots a sniper, and the scene where Rose Byrne guides the kids through darkness is terrifying. Plus, the opening sequence is simply phenomenal. Maybe the franchise's best scene overall. So for all these reasons, I think 28 Weeks Later is good, although it's not without its problems. First off, I hate how the movie portrays Robert Carlyle as a villain. In the opening scene, he's forced to leave his wife behind, and honestly, rightfully so. There was no way he could get out of that situation alive. The mom made a stupid choice, and Robert Carlyle had to save himself. I could understand him being portrayed this way if the situation looked different, but no. If he tried helping her, he was as good as dead. Secondly, his children are idiots for going outside the quarantine zone. The disaster that ensues later on could have been avoided altogether had they not left. And their reasoning for leaving is because the son Andy wants a picture of his mom? Come on. I also don't understand how the military is so inept. The only person who spots the kids leaving is Jeremy Renner from a rooftop? You can't be serious. Another stupid thing is when the mom is discovered still alive, it's implied she may be carrying the infection. So with this knowledge, you'd think the military would keep her in a locked room. Or at the very least have people guarding the room until they figure out if she's infected. Nope, the husband just walks right in. Really? The new outbreak could have easily been avoided if everyone wasn't so stupid. Finally, I just hate the way Jeremy Renner dies. His character seems like a good dude, and getting burned alive is an excruciating way to go out. He didn't deserve that. It was an anticlimactic death too. Oh, and Idris Elba oddly disappears? We have no idea what happens to his character, sadly. So 28 Weeks Later is good, just a flawed film. And in first place has gotta be 28 Days Later. If you like zombie flicks that feel realistic, look no further than 28 Days Later. Very little about this movie feels like it was taken over by studio executives in suits. Danny Boyle had a vision and precisely executed it. From the opening frame, 28 Days Later tells you it means business. They don't pull punches. This is such a disturbing first installment to the franchise. Usually zombie films are a tad lighthearted, but there isn't anything light about 28 Days Later. From the eerie streets of London, to a race against time from rage-driven infected civilians, to some of the scariest soldiers you'll ever see portrayed in film, 28 Days Later is a full-on anxiety ride. It plays out as if something bad could happen at any moment to any character, making things feel unpredictable and realistic, which you don't see too often in horror nowadays. The blurry camera quality enhances the realism as well. 28 Days Later is also bloody, has a few standout performances, and even a great twist with the soldiers. I remember on first watch, I truly did not see that coming. I could go on, but I don't see the need. 28 Days Later is a great zombie movie. Out of all the zombie flicks in the genre, it's my personal favorite. It'll be difficult for the franchise to ever top this one. So that is my ranking of the 28 Days Later movies. Now, how do you feel about my ranking and thoughts on each film? And how would you rank all three? Let me know in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching this ranking video. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. Also, follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and Letterboxd for more film content. And as always, I'll catch you all in the next one. See you then.